Let's start off with a question. What's my name? Tough question. Anybody know? Oh, the last class.
Mr. Price?
No.
Mr. Sherman?
Mr. Sherman, yes. What's my job at Friday High?
You're a counselor.
I'm a counselor, right. You probably don't know my name because I'm not a 9th grade counselor, so I'm not anyone's counselor in this room. I have 10th graders and seniors this year. Next year I'll have 9th graders. So if you have a brother or sister coming in, a sibling coming in, I will have the first half of the alphabet, A through K, with the 9th graders next year, and then the 10th graders who move on to be juniors. So we're going to talk about everybody's favorite subject today, yourselves, and how to graduate from Flathead High School. How to move on to 10th grade. Everybody want to go to 10th grade? Anybody want to stay as a 9th grader?
No.
No. No? It's kind of cool as a 9th grader, right? Yeah. Probably better as a 10th grader, maybe? I don't know. Debatable. Anyways, all right, this is how you get to 10th grade. Registration sheet. Very important. You won't have any classes if you don't fill this out. So we're going to talk all about how to fill this out. Question? You need one? Sorry. If you lose this, you can come down to the counseling office and get another one. Hopefully you won't. You're going to have to turn it in on Friday to Mr. Ruiz or Mr. Freeze, whoever might be in here. Mr. Ruiz isn't back by then. We're going to talk about graduation requirements first before we get to exactly what you're going to take next year. So how many credits do you need to graduate from Flathead High School with a diploma?
22.
22. So let's figure out what a credit is. If you take a class for 1 year, entire year, like this biology class, how many credits do you get?
1.
1. If you take a class for half the year, say like ACE or PE or health, how many credits do you get?
Half.
1/2. Great. So we have how many class periods per day?
7.
7. If you fill your entire schedule with courses and you take 7 classes for 4 years, how many credits are you going to end up with at the end? 28. I'm asking you from math and biology. 28. So if you take a study hall every semester that you're in high school, can you still graduate with more than 22 credits?
Yeah.
Yes. How many would you have if you did take a study hall every semester? 24. 6 classes, 4 years, 24 credits. All right. So there'll be room in study hall if you haven't failed any classes. If you passed all your classes, you could do study hall as a junior and senior. You can take an early release. As a senior, you can have late arrival, sleep in for 1 period, and be here at 9 o'clock. Start the 2nd period. But those are privileges later on. All right, so everybody's on Power School, right? You all check your grades and figure out attendance and that sort of thing. Do your parents do that as well?
Yeah.
They say, hey, what about this missing assignment on Power School in biology or whatever class? Yes, no? You don't have any missing assignments, so they never say that. That's hopefully the answer I'm going to get. But you can check your graduation progress and your historical grades in Power School. You may not know that because you've only had 1 semester of grades recorded at Flathead, right? Last semester, first semester that you were here. This will be more important as you progress into junior and senior year. So graduation progress is to tell you the classes you've taken and where they fit in the categories. If you took a career tech ed class like culinary arts, auto, then you fulfilled half that requirement. If you took an art class, band, choir, theater arts, whatever, that fits in the fine art requirement. So how are you doing on your graduation requirements? Historical grades is just a list of your classes and when you took them, what semester, what grades you got. All right? So if you want to know all the classes that you can take as a 10th grader, they're listed on this blue sheet. Remember last year's pink sheet was for 9th grade coming in. All the classes you can take as a 9th grader are listed either the front or the back of the blue sheet. If you don't see it on the sheet, you probably can't take it as a 10th grader. If you want to know what the classes are all about, there's a class on here that sounds interesting, but you have no idea what it's all about. Get online, Flathead High School website. You'll find the registration handbook. Click on it, and there'll be 30-some pages in there with course descriptions. You can take Mr. Mowett's class, digital multimedia, next year, right? As a 10th grader.
Oh, juniors.
Juniors and seniors, okay. So you can be famous on the morning announcements if you want. It's a fun class. You do all those cool graphics that you see on the TV every morning, second period. So does anybody know what NCAA stands for, or NAIA? It's got something to do with college athletics. National Collegiate Athletic Association. To tell you the truth, I can't remember what NAIA stands for, but it's an organization. There's two organizations that kind of govern college athletics. NCAA, Division 1, 2, and 3. NAIA schools, which there are a lot in Montana, like Montana Tech and Butte, or Western Montana and Dillon. Those are Northern. Those are NAIA schools. So if you're thinking about college athletics as a possibility in one school or another that fits in these categories, you'll want to think about certain courses to take. It's more important for NCAA. You have to have 16 core classes. These are good requirements to go to college, whether you're doing athletics or not. But to be an athlete in Division 1 or 2, you have to have 16 core classes. What's a core class? What subject areas? Science, math, English. Class that you're not taking a core class in this year, but you will next year. Social studies, history. And then the other one they throw in there is international language. So you have to have 16 core classes in those 4 areas. If you're thinking about college athletics, go see your counselor and figure out how you're going to get 4 years of English, but you have to have that to graduate, right? And then 3 years or 4 years of math, 3 or 4 years of science. You have to take an extra social studies because we give you 2.5 to graduate. And then how you're going to get 2 years of French or Spanish. Okay, so while we're doing that, let's talk about graduation requirements. How many English classes do you need to graduate from Friday? 4. Every semester in high school, right? You have to take an English class. What about math classes? 3. If you're going to college, however, colleges don't want you to take a year off math as a senior. They want you to take some sort of math class in senior year. So just because you completed your 3 years, but you're thinking of college, better do something as a senior. So really, you have 4 years of math if you're going to college. What about science? To graduate, you need 2. Just 2. To go to college, however, best to have 3. So you're taking biology right now, that's 1 as a freshman. What are you going to do next year? There's a whole bunch of choices on that sheet. Let's talk about those right now. If you didn't do biology, you wouldn't, that applies to nobody in this class because you're all taking biology since it's biology class. But there are some freshmen out there that may be transferred in, and that's why biology is listed there. So chemistry year long, that's a tough honors level class. Be prepared for that if that's something you're thinking about. But we do have options for semester chemistry, semester physics, not as rigorous as the year-long chemistry, more for the general student. So if you're not up for the huge challenge of chem year long, go with those 2. If you want something different, earth science, probably earth science is where most students land. I think if Mr. Ruiz is back by Friday or sometime this week, he's going to talk to you about what's appropriate for you. It's also kind of what you're interested in. If you want the extra challenge of earth science honors, then you can go for that too. That means you're pretty good in math, you're doing pretty well in biology, you got a good grade. So earth science is a year-long class. You'll see the basic designation after Western Civ Basic and Earth Science Basic. That's for students who struggle in reading. So if you in reading intervention or you're told that you read below grade level, then that's a little slower pace, kind of more geared to a struggling reader. Same thing with the ACE2 Basic. So science, it gets a little confusing as 10th grade because you have a few choices. Talk to Mr. Ruiz. You can talk to your math teacher. Am I ready for this extra math and chemistry and physics and not as much math and earth science? Okay, so fill out registration sheet fully. Your full year of classes. So we've got, you can see on the registration table here, English, math, Western civilization. That's a history class you take as a 10th grader, world history type class. Science we just talked about. ACE, how many credits is an ACE class?
Uh,
Half credit. You take an ACE 1 this year, take an ACE 2 next year. That means you'll have a semester elective on the other side of ACE. Sometimes people forget this empty spot here, so you have to have a class stuck in here as a semester elective. So one semester, 10th grade, you're going to get 3 electives. The other semester, you only get 2 electives. Anybody thinking about going to ag next year? Nobody's in ag this year, of course, because you wouldn't be in this class. But if you think you want to go to ag, no? Okay. If you do decide later, you're going to fill out the English year ag, the Western Civilization year ag, and then, of course, you're going to take the English, or you're going to take the math class here on campus, and the science class here on campus, and ACE on campus. But then you're going to write ag on one of your electives time slots down here. Ag 2. If you don't go to ag, then you write some other elective in there. But you think you probably ought to get started on a credit graduation requirement that you haven't done yet. If you haven't done any fine art, maybe a good time to start that as a 10th grader, or PE, or career tech yet, or whatever it is that you might be missing. So 2 electives, 1 semester, 3 electives the other semester as a 10th grader. Okay. As I said, Friday is the day that we're going to finish this up, and you're going to give your sheets to Mr. Ruiz. So you have to hang on this till Friday. I want you to talk to your parents, talk to your friends, figure out what you're going to do. Parents need to be involved, so involved they need to sign this sheet. You got to have a parent signature on there. That means you took it home and you talked to your parents. Normally, pre-COVID, we would have everybody come in on a Wednesday night, go to their third period teacher, wherever that might be, and sit down at a computer for a few minutes and put your course requests into Power School. But this year we're not doing that to avoid the large group gathering. So you're going to do it at home with your parents, going to decide, give it to Mr. Ruiz, and then the counselors are going to spend like a whole week putting in all your classes. So write neatly. If we can't read it, we'll make up a schedule for you. And it may not be the one you wanted, so make sure you're writing neatly. Okay, ask your teachers about classes in the departments in which they teach. Like if you have a question about a math class, make sure you talk to your math teacher and get the signature. Any questions so far? All making sense? All right, so we talked about signatures. Talk to your teachers, get your signatures. Alternate electives. So on the back, at the very bottom, look at that bottom part. Those are classes that are second choice. And you might kind of blow it off and think, it's a second choice. Probably not going to need it. Not true. I would say some years it could be up to 50% of students, their schedules don't work. Probably more like a third of students don't get their first choice. So that means we have to flip it over and look on the back and say, that student wanted culinary arts and it just won't fit anywhere. It's particularly important in 10th grade because there's 5 classes you have to take, so that doesn't leave you a lot of wiggle room for schedule adjustments. So we'll put in another class that you wanted. Well, that auto class fits nicely. That's a second choice, but the first choice, culinary, didn't. Whatever elective we're talking about. Does that make sense? And you can put your phone number down there, because if nothing fits, or we have some questions about your schedule, we'll call you. We'll text you. But we work in the summer sometimes. I know it seems terrible, and it is, but we do work in the summer, especially right before school starts, cleaning up schedules, making sure everybody's schedule works, and that takes a lot of time. But we'll call you and talk about your schedule. So put your phone number down there. Choose wisely, because you will get the classes you put in the computer or put on your sheet. So here's what you take as a sophomore. 5 class periods, as we discussed, and then only 4 the other semester. And talk to your teachers in each of these subjects and see what class is appropriate for you. You want the honors level? Are you have enough skill to do that? Are you capable? Do you have the will to do it too? Do you want to take on the extra challenge? Okay. Hopefully you won't need credit recovery. If you have failed a class, especially an English class, or, well, you're not taking history, so English fits well in credit recovery because you do an online class to make up for the failing grade, previous failing grade. If you need it, put it in there. Talk to your counselor, see if that's something you do need. If you failed English last semester, that'll be something you might want to do as a 10th grader. It does take an elective slot. You go to the computer lab or the study hall room that's right below us in 133. For one class period, get online, do your English class or whatever class you failed. Math and science you can do, but it's tougher because it's online. There's nobody there to really help you. It's not as good as doing it in person. Which is the other way to make up a failing grade, is just do the class over again. Historical grades, you can get that in Power School. Just a list of the classes you've taken. For you, it'll be just one semester. But at the end of this year, you'll see the whole 9th grade year. Okay, here's your sheet. Make sure you fill out the whole thing. This is 7 class periods, you count them. This little dash here means semester. So if you take culinary arts, put culinary arts here. Maybe if you do art over here, put art. You do auto, PE, those are all semester courses. But if you did like ag, you'd write it all the way across. Or if you did Spanish, you'd write it all the way across because those are year-long classes. So if it's one semester or if it's a full year, make sure you get your parent signature up there and get your other signatures for the classes that are most appropriate that you want to take and teacher thinks the best for you. Same thing, there's those little dashes here, little lines for teacher initials. Make sure you're getting approval to take those classes. What does it S mean and Y mean here? S means semester, Y means
Year.
How about SS?
Semester.
Double period for one semester. There's a few classes that are YY. Year-long, double period. Like housing construction or something. We talked about the phone number and the alternatives down here. Anybody thinking about full IB? Oh, lots of them. Okay, good. So, excellent. Tough road, but it's a great one. So, have you met with Miss Higgins, the IB coordinator? Okay, she's probably mapped out a 4-year plan for you. Part of that 4-year plan is to get your career tech ed, your fine art, and your PE done by the end of 10th grade. So make sure you have that all down there. Follow her 4-year plan, you're going to be okay. But there's a little checkbox to make sure you're completing all those requirements. Because if you're a full IB student, you only have one elective time slot as a junior and as a senior. And if you want to do something like biomed or band or choir, orchestra, or whatever, then there's your elective. This is the registration handbook. You'll see that icon on the website. Click on it. There's like 30 pages in there. Has a list of all the course descriptions. Every class that we offer at Flathead High, so you can kind of look to see what you've got next year and even beyond. Like, oh, what's psychology? I can't take that as a 10th grader, but I can take it as a junior, so I might want to kind of figure out what that's all about. Do you have a question? Nope? Okay. So yeah, a list of all the classes in there, college information, graduation requirements, things like that. And it's available anytime. It's on the website. This has already happened, and it sounds like you full IB wannabes have already met with Ms. Higgins, so that's great. She's usually on it. So you got to complete your general education requirements. Excellent. Distinctions. So if you're not full IB, if you are, you might be able to get a distinction, but it's hard to do that fun elective. Well, maybe it's like a fine art elective, and do one of these other distinctions. If you did that band or choir, orchestra, or whatever, and IB, you could probably get the fine arts distinction. So these are just a list of courses that you have to take by the time you graduate, and you get a cord at graduation. A different colored cord depending on what distinction you have. You take a lot of French or Spanish, international, biomed for health science, ag, whatever it is. Kind of a nice thing. Just a way to recognize your extra efforts at graduation. This rigorous core is kind of what we talked about. 4 years of math, 4 years of English, 3 or 4 years of science, extra social studies to make 3 instead of the 2.5 that's required for graduation, taking French or Spanish, and good college preparation. That's what colleges like to see when you're applying. Also, good ACT scores, you might get some scholarships with the rigorous core plus the good test score. Signatures by Friday. We're going to start entering the sheets next week. So you better have those turned in. If you don't give them to Mr. Ruiz, you better run it down to the counseling office. The counselors are going to be entering it in after that. Okay, any questions so far? You want to take a minute and try to figure out what you're going to do next year? I know you don't have signatures yet, but I think you can guess what kind of math class you're going to take. You can look at the science requirements or offerings and see what's best for you, what you're interested in. Start looking at electives. I'll be here to answer questions. Last class, people were asking about PE. It says athletic foundations, and then a new term, introduction to fitness. That's now called life skills, but they're changing the name. So the difference being athletic foundations is more like strength and conditioning, weightlifting, training for athletics, whereas the introduction to fitness is more traditional PE, sports and games, a mix of fitness and sport games. Oh yeah, sorry. And the reason there's a 2 beside athletic foundations in the fitness class is because if you want to do the course both semesters, then the second time you choose the 2. Just so Power School knows, put it in there twice instead of just once.